High up on the Tibetan plateau, there's this one building that just seems to defy gravity itself. It's been a fortress, a sanctuary, and the very heart of a nation. Today, we're exploring the incredible Potala Palace.
So, here it is, in Lhasa. For over 300 years, from 1649 all the way to 1959, this was the winter palace of the Dalai Lamas. Now it's this vast museum complex, a window looking directly into centuries of Tibetan history.
Okay, the sheer scale of this place is it's hard to wrap your head around. And it all starts with the altitude. The palace sits at 3,700 meters, that's over 12,000 feet up, built right on top of the Marmauri, which means the Red Mountain.
And get this, it doesn't just sit on the mountain, it soars from it. The palace rises a staggering 13 stories high, standing almost 1,000 feet above the valley floor. It's just an absolute architectural marvel.
And if you think that's impressive, wait till you hear about the inside. The complex has over 1,000 rooms, 10,000 shrines, and something like 200,000 statues. It's not just a building. In a lot of ways, it's a city within a building.
So, what is the story behind this incredible place? I mean, how did it even get built? What was it for? And how is it still standing today? Well, that's exactly what we're here to find out.
All right, first up, let's dive into the spiritual meaning that's literally built into its name and its location. So that name, Potala, it's not just a name. It has these really deep spiritual roots. It comes from Mount Potala, the mythical heavenly home of Avalokiteshvara, who is the bodhisattva, or enlightened being of compassion. So from the very beginning, the palace was seen as the sacred, holy place right here on Earth.
Right, so how on earth do you build something this massive, especially at that altitude? Well, the construction itself is a story that unfolds over centuries.
Okay, so there was actually an older palace on this spot, but the one we recognize today, construction on that beast started back in 1645. The administrative part, the White Palace, was actually finished pretty quickly, by 1649, but the spiritual core, the Red Palace, wasn't done until 1694. And here's a fascinating bit of trivia. That was 12 years after the death of the very Dalai Lama who started the project.
And check this out, this is where the timeline gets wild. The entire outside shell, they threw that up in just 3 years. But the inside, all the intricate details, the art, the shrines, that took another 45 years to complete. That just tells you everything about the level of craftsmanship we're talking about here.
So, what was the whole point of this giant complex? Well, it was brilliant, really. It was designed to play two huge roles at once. It was the center of government and the heart of their religion.
This breakdown really shows you how it worked. The palace is basically split into two halves. You've got the White Palace, the Potrang Karpo, which was the seat of government. It's where the Dalai Lama lived, where all the administrative work happened. And then you have the Red Palace, or Potrang Marpo. That was the sacred core, totally dedicated to religious study and prayer. And you can really see that split right here. Those huge, sprawling white sections, that's where all the government business happened, the day-to-day stuff. And then rising right out of the middle, you have that crimson red palace, the spiritual soul of the entire complex. All right, let's jump forward in time. The 20th century brought some huge, turbulent changes, and the palace was right in the middle of it all.
1959. That year was a major turning point. After the Tibetan uprising, the Potala Palace was no longer the home of the Dalai Lama. Its whole purpose changed overnight. It went from being this living, breathing center of power to essentially a state museum.
Then, during the Cultural Revolution in 1966, the palace faced another huge threat. What we know is that the building itself was spared from the kind of destruction that was happening elsewhere, and sources point to the personal intervention of Zhou Enlai, who was the premier of China at the time.
Wow, take a look at this photo from the 1920s. It really gives you a feel for that lost era, doesn't it? You see the palace just looming over this much simpler, more open landscape. It's a really powerful reminder of how much this place has seen and how much has changed.
Which brings us to today, and the constant challenge of how to protect this global icon.
You can imagine protecting a building this old, this high up, and this important. It's a monumental task. It became a UNESCO World Heritage Site in 1994, and that really brought a spotlight to the risks from nearby modern construction. After major restoration projects, today they have to put strict limits on how many people can even go inside each day, basically to stop it from being loved to death.
And this image, this says it all, really. You've got this ancient, sacred palace standing its ground, and a modern city literally growing right up to its doorstep. It's a striking picture of that constant balancing act between honoring the past and embracing the future.
And really, that leaves us with a huge question, not just for the Potala Palace, but for historic sites all over the world. How do you protect the irreplaceable past when the pressures of the present are knocking right at the door?